Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today we're going to be looking at the Sandwich series from Deck Idea. Deck Idea is a relatively new deck designer by the name of Jason. He's done a few other decks going back into late last year. Most notably, he did the 1969 Space themed deck, as well as the Serpent themed deck. That one was more of a cardistry deck. All of his decks have been fun, unique, inspired, and really creative ones that do something a little bit different with decks that you haven't seen before. And this one is 100% no exception. So let's jump into it, find out more about the decks. Now, you can see here, there's three different versions of the deck. There's the bread deck. This was the original one that he teased going back into last year. But then there's also the egg deck and the luncheon meat deck, otherwise known as the spam deck, although spam, a little bit of a copyright thing there, so you get the luncheon meat deck. So those are the three different decks, and as you can see right off from the tuck cases, they're designed to look like the actual food. They're all done on these regular glossy tuck cases, and they feature these highly zoomed in photorealistic looks of the three different types of food. So on the bread deck, you have it looking like an actual slice of bread, complete with the darker crust around the edge, the little air pockets showing, very highly realistic, almost like it's a photograph expanded. And that continues all the way around. So you have the crust on the sides, look at the bread from the back, and just really minimal writing. And then same thing for the eggs. So the eggs, you have a big fluffy pile of scrambled eggs there. And then the luncheon meat is this pink loaf, just like you would see if you pulled it out of a can of Spam. And the writing on these, like I said, fairly minimal. You can see here down the sides, you have the Deck Idea ad copy, issue 2020 May, when the deck was funded on one side. Other side has just the names of the deck in small letters, luncheon meat, egg, and bread. You have more ad copy on the bottom, and you can see the limited runs of each of these. So 1,000 for the bread deck, and then 600 each for the egg and luncheon meat decks. You can also see they're printed by Cardamundi. And then the top just says Deck Idea. So really minimal printing, and just allows you to sort of appreciate the realistic food look of the three. And it's a really strange effect, I gotta say. I think, the bread deck looks maybe a little bit more normal, even if you just had this as standalone. But these two, especially the spam deck, this is a hard one to explain if you have it just on a shelf by itself. It really only makes sense to me in the context of the other decks. And you can almost see the effect he was going for here, especially if you have a second bread deck like I've got here. You can almost put them together so it actually forms a sandwich, which is kind of a fun overall feel to it. So that's the three different tuck cases, but we're also now going to take a look at the cards themselves. So look at these three decks in turn. We're going to start with the original of the three, and that's the bread deck. So let's jump in. All right, nothing really special printed on the inside or anything like that, but let's take a look at the cards. Now, the back design of the cards we've already seen because it's exactly the same as what we looked at on the tuck case. So that allows you to have an entire deck of cards that itself resembles a loaf of bread that you're just pulling slices off of, basically. But the back design has that same highly detailed look. The crust now sort of becomes that poker border, but it still has a very organic feel overall to it. And I will say it is a one-way back design. There's some elements here where you can see it's semi-mirrored across, so it's not a super blatantly obvious one-way back design, but it's not a perfectly mirrored design. I wish he'd been able to pull that off. I'm sure that was hard to do with the really organic look to the bread. But overall, fun back design. You also get some extra cards, so two ad cards. First one is, actually both of these are pretty standard in all of the Deck Idea Kickstarter campaigns. First one is just a regular ad card that includes the name of the deck, the sandwich bread at the top, and then it has Deck Idea ad copy at the bottom. And then the second one is his famous Hall of Fame card. This is acknowledging the first 50 backers on Kickstarter, and so you can see them all listed there in the order they backed. In fact, I made my way up to number 2 on the list. So that's a fun addition that he does on all of his. Love seeing that scramble to get a spot on here when his deck launches. So there's your two ad cards. You also get a pair of gaff cards. And these are fun. They're double backers, so one side has the regular bread, and then you have two different gaff cards. One of them is the outer crust of the bread, and then the other one is the burnt piece of toast. And you can imagine just the different effects, especially if you were a good magician, where you could, sort of do these sort of effects where you burn the bread with your hand. Start with regular bread and then toast it or something like that with your hand. So interesting color changes that are possible with these. So there's your two gaff cards. Now into the deck. There's nothing too special to speak of on the number cards. The pips, the indices are all fairly standard, readable. Slight custom font on the indices, slightly different pips, but nothing too out of the ordinary. Very readable, very usable. You get a little bit of a custom layout on the 9 and the 10, but the blacks are black. The reds, as you can see here with the hearts, are normal red, just like you'd find in any deck. So real quick look through these just so you can see what all the pips look like, but these are not the special or custom part of the deck. But you do get custom aces and courts. So let's take a look at those now. So all four of the aces are going to be equal. So there's no one power ace, but all four of them are going to feature bread and used in some sort of recipe, if you will. So ace of spades here has buttery toast, and you can see the spade pip making up that pat of butter melted on top. The ace of hearts now is strawberry jam, so you've got the jam forming a heart on the toast. Next one is eggs in holes, so instead of the 3 leaves of the club pip, you've got the 3 holes cut into the bread, and they put the egg in it, so that's the eggs in holes recipe there. So cooking up your toast and your eggs all in one. And then French toast is the diamond pip. You love that kind of fuzzy French toast, and then the diamond butter pat. Interesting they went with more of a cartoonish sort of illustration on the aces, and as you'll see on the courts, compared to that photorealism on the backs. Interesting switch over. Now the courts themselves, mentioned they are kind of a more cartoony look to them. Not my favorite style of courts. I probably would have preferred them, having a little bit more realism to them. But you can see they're kind of blocky, just like dots for the eyes and simple lines and nose for the mouth. Definitely fits in with the whimsical feel overall. And each one of them is going to feature a chef or a cook that's in the kitchen, usually doing something associated to bread, whether it's this jack of spades who's grilling up a piece of toast, queen of spades here, maybe getting ready to bake some bread, or the king of spades here licking the knife after spreading something on his bread there. So they all feature kind of different poses. The black cards are generally going to be wearing black. The red cards, they'll be wearing red. And they're all done in these two-way court styles. I will say the execution on the two-way courts is a little hit or miss. These here, where he tries to kind of extend the body across, kind of creates a little bit of an awkward feel, almost like it's this twisted Siamese twin sort of character there or something like that. It's a bizarre look to it, as opposed to here. This, I think, is done a little bit better, where you have like a table forming that border in the center. Looks a little bit less awkward. But then as you go through the clubs, there's those, and then into the diamonds. A mixing bowl, and then here grilling up a piece of French toast on the king of diamonds. So those are your court cards. Now, before we jump right into talking about handling and last thoughts on the deck, let's take a quick look at the other two, the egg and the spam deck, to talk about the differences. Now, obviously with the egg deck, we're going to have a completely different back, and it's going to be the same as what we looked at on the tuck case. So that nice realistic look of fluffy eggs. Just so bizarre, but fun to me. Different ad card just because it has the name of the deck up here. So this is the Sandwich Egg deck. Same Hall of Fame card. Your gaff cards are going to be different and in fitting with eggs. So you've got one that is the outer shell of the egg, so it's just the egg shell, and the other one that's a raw or a sunny side up egg there. I like that one. It's probably my favorite of all of the gaff cards that were included. The aces are all going to be swapped up, of course, to feature some egg recipes. So we have the sunny side up egg on the ace of spades. Ace of hearts has a scramble there. Soft boiled eggs, so a trio of them dripping out as the ace of clubs. And the Ace of Diamonds features tamagoyaki. That's a rolled omelet that's popular in Japan. That's a trio of omelets on the plate. And you'll see right away the red for the diamonds and the hearts has been swapped out with this bright orange, kind of in keeping with like the color of a yolk or something like that. The court cards are all slightly modified as well. So you'll see now they're still in similar poses, but they're all eating or preparing egg dishes or something related to eggs in these instead. So here she's cracking an egg. One thing I did not like about this, and I wish it had been done differently, these look like they're all different quarts on the face of it, just because you're seeing, oh, well, now there's eggs everywhere. But in reality, these are the same quarts, just with the foods swapped. And just as a comparison, like we'll look here at the King of Diamonds, for example, and here's the King of Diamonds from the bread deck. And you'll see it's the same lady, the exact same pose, we just changed what was in the pan. I wish there'd been a little bit more customization besides just the slight color swap and then changing what was in the pan. But instead he chose to kind of keep them the same pose and just swap it out. That said, I don't think this is a deck where the quarts are really the most important aspect overall. Number cards are exactly the same as before, except that the red cards are now swapped with more of that orange look. So that's the second of the 3 decks. That's the egg deck. And let's finish out with a quick look at the luncheon meat deck. Of course, you have that bizarre, slightly cooked luncheon meat on the back, nicely toasted. Name included on the ad cards, same here. Your 2 gaff cards now include both raw luncheon meat, which looks gross on its own, and overcooked or burned luncheon meat on the other one. So you get 3 different looks at it there. And then your ace pips now have different recipes, of course. So luncheon meat and egg toast on one. The heart has your fried luncheon meat with that deeper pink color. The club has kimbap. This is similar to sushi. It's a Korean dish that's prepared very similar to sushi, different kind of rice. They'll put different meats in it, but Spam is pretty popularly used as one of those meats. And then the Ace of Diamonds is musubi. This is a dish that's popular in Hawaii. It's basically a bit of rice, piece of Spam on top, and then wrapped with seaweed. For whatever reason, the Hawaiians love Spam, so they use it in a lot of different recipes. And then court cards, same designs as before, but now they're, maybe Spam or Spam sandwiches more on their plates. So just swapping out what's on their plates or what they're preparing. There's one preparing kimbap right there. Both the Jack and the Queen of Clubs are preparing kimbap. And the King of Clubs, all 3 of them are. So there are your court cards. And then same as the bread deck on the number card. So red and back to just classic red and black. So that is the 3rd and final version of the deck. Now, what do we think of the handling overall on these? I'll grab the bread deck to talk about this again. These are all done on the Cardamundi B9 stock with a true linen finish, which is my absolute favorite stock and finish. It feels so buttery smooth. It's a really soft stock, handles super well right out of the box, and yet still a really durable stock despite being on that really thin paper. So I love that he used that stock on this one, and these handle beautifully because of it. Now, what do I think of uses of this deck? That is probably the hardest part to classify on this one. I don't know how to think about these decks. Could you use them for Magic? I suppose there's some interesting gaff cards in there that might make for some interesting color changes, but it's just such a weird deck to use for Magic. I guess you could use it for cardistry. They certainly handle well enough, and maybe that bread flashing around would make for an interesting cardistry routine. I suppose you could use it for gameplay. You could, I guess, use it for just a regular collector's deck. And really for me, I guess that's probably where it's going to land, is as that interesting collector's deck. With the caveat that if you want to pick this up as a collector's deck, you really need to get all 3. One deck by itself, just picking up this deck does not make sense at all. You really need it in the context of the overall trio. You got to pick up the bread and the egg decks to go with it. So I think it's an interesting, fun series, but one that you really kind of get committed and buy all 3 of them. If you're going to buy just one, definitely you'll get the bread deck. But that is it. That is the look at the sandwich series from Deck Idea. Hope you enjoyed this look. And I'll put a link down in the description to Jason's site where once he finishes fulfillment on Kickstarter, you'll be able to pick one up for yourself. So thanks for checking this one out with me. Now, before I sign off for this one, wanted to give a quick announcement to the winner of my giveaway of the Warrior Women deck from last week. So, want to give a big congratulations to Gandalf D. Blue. You are the winner. So, contact me. Check out my email down in the description. Send me an email, and I'll be sure to get that deck out to you. Congratulations. All right, well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews and unboxings. Let me know what else you want to see, and I'll see you for the next one.